gallbladder removed. So
No, he didn't have appendicitis. Stevie did.
Stevie,
oh, you said,
Stevie
oh,
had
wait,
appendicitis.
where did? Oh, right.
Bruce had like an ulcer.
An ulcer. Also, that's what I meant. Sorry. And you had that. That's crazy.
It was really crazy. I was sick over, a holiday break and just kind of throwing up all through Christmas. It was fantastic. And then by the time I got to New Year's Eve on our show, I still had some issues, but I thought I was getting over it. And I guess that virus sort of exacerbated this problem. And I had the surgery down in Myrtle Beach. I drove down to visit my mom, and then by the time I got in her door, I said, something's wrong here. I think
oh, man.
Yeah. So it was 75 and sunny throughout my entire surgery. And
I'm here.
yes. And then I had to drive back. So and drove back just in time for the show. And we
what did you have? Did you have your gallbladder out?
Yes. Yeah, I had my gallbladder removed. And it's the first surgery I had since I was born, basically. So it was just a lot on me. I was still feeling the anesthesia up until basically a day before the show.
Give that. I can't believe you gotta do it.
Well, I just want to say to you,
oh no,
thank you for doing this, and I know it was like tight. What's the matter?
Nothing. You were starting to
breaking up.
You were starting to break up like you did last week when you got bounced out. But you're good. You're good.
Oh, that's my internet. That's my internet. There's nothing I can do. But so that's why I want to get it out. So Ryan is our host. Ryan is our host. He's the one who moderates the whole thing and does a great job. And Stan is, I'm sure he's, just an Asbury legend already. So he'll be, as a sidekick. And as far as me and Jules is concerned, the same thing. We'll chime in from time to time. And we're going to post this live as we go on, on Facebook and our pages. So we should get a lot of people joining in. They're very excited. So again, thank you. We'll go live and, whatever you feel, Anthony, you do. I mean, we're at your beck and call. So whatever you feel, you let us know.
I appreciate you all. I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
Okay.
We are live. We are.
Yeah, Howie, I rolled, so we're good.
Do we call you Remember or Anthony? I always ask you that anyway.
Well, this is hard because you're somebody who knew me as Anthony too. Yeah. But I think either way is fine on this thing. When I'm on the stage, to remember. When I get off, we call me Anthony. All of my confidants can call me Anthony.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ryan, you shared this already?
Yeah, I shared it. We're rolling.
We're rolling.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So let me go to Spring Nuts.
I shared it to my page. We're on Spring Nuts, so we're good. We should be good, Howie. Anthony, we want to be cognizant of your
excellent. So you
can
health, go. I'll do my thing.
Your time, everything. So if you need to, you just tell us if you're running out of energy or anything like that.
I appreciate you all. No, I'm excited. I'm good. Thank you so much.
Howie, did you want to roll? Or you want me to just start rolling with stuff?
Oh no. Oh yeah, I forgot I am starting this thing. Sorry. Okay, so I want to welcome everyone to another edition of Spring Nut Cafe. We're all coming off of, a great light of day weekend. I mean, in my opinion, one of my favorite light of day weekend to date, and it was an amazing. But so, who better to bring on the show? Okay, to start off our new week, after that event, then the person that hosted Light of Day, Anthony D'Amato, Remember Jones. I know so many of you have caught him, his live acts, as we did with Queen and Meatloaf. Thank you. and we're just so thrilled to have him. He's a real trooper. We love him, and Anthony, we want to, welcome you to the show.
Thank you, guys. Love you too. Thank you. So happy to be here. Thank you for thinking of me and having me and being so supportive. I really appreciate you all. Thank you.
We just saw your beautiful face on Saturday night, the MC. So is this the second year that you've been the MC or more?
Yes, the second year, though this is 10 years of Light of Day for me. but second year as an MC.
Years of Light of Day.
I will say this: last year when you emceed, I was like, I knew you were going to be on the bill, and I love your shows. But then I saw you as the MC. You knocked it out of the park. You were exceptional. So you do a fantastic job with that role of it.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been on the Light of Day board now. This is my second year. And, I've obviously been close with Tony for many years through different projects, Tony Palagrosi, and pretty much every member of the board of Light of Day I've connected with or worked with in some way. And, my strength is in shows, obviously directing shows or production of shows and event coordinating and things like that. And as many of us here probably have been to many Light of Day main events over the years at different venues, it's this long-winded night that everybody's really excited about on both sides of the stage, on the stage, behind the stage, in the audience. But it gets long and it gets a little bit hard to navigate in that production. So taking small steps over the next few years to try to finesse that and figure out, we don't want to do too much too soon, but try to figure out what is really a nice way to keep the messaging out there of what Light of Day is about, while also keeping the flow of a great show going. And I offered myself to be the opening act last year, which a lot of artists don't love to take because it's very early and a lot of the audience isn't quite settled in just yet, or they're coming from another event for Light of Day. And so I offered myself up as that, and I just kind of threw out the suggestion that, well, maybe I could also then MC the rest of the night. And I didn't want to take away from our friends who have done it in the past, Tom Cunningham, Rich, and I guess Jeff Raspy's done it as well. And I think we just unanimously agreed that I could bring that energy that keeps a night moving. And we tried it out last year. It wasn't easy. We learned that Bruce was coming pretty much the day of last year. So I was supposed to be at the Basie at noon, and I got a phone call at 7 a.m. that said, you should probably get here sooner because everything we worked on is changing. And that really prepared us for something like this year.
Well, I was impressed the other night. I love old school rock and roll. That's that's like my thing. That's what my dad was born during that time. But you did a little bit of medley of Little Richard the other night. Fantastic job.
Yeah, thank you. Bobby Lynch on piano. We were working together on a bunch of stuff, and we worked together throughout the years. He's, of course, been in Gary's U.S. Bonds band and played with the Jukes many times. And, I thought of this concept to keep the night going with interjecting, instead of me doing a set this year, just kind of having a few vignettes throughout the night or a few songs to keep the energy going. And eventually I'll be like a Billy Crystal or a Neil Patrick Harris when it comes to Light of Day, and I'll have full production numbers and choreography and dancers. But for right now, it is what it is, and I was very happy with what we pulled off. And obviously having Bruce in the house and so many special people behind the scenes, it is my job to really keep that moving and keep the momentum going and watch the clock throughout the night, while still having the messaging of Light of Day and introducing the artist and almost being a security guard backstage. If any of you have been backstage during Light of Day, it is absolute mayhem. Yeah, and it's very exciting. It's really fun, and there's a lot of camaraderie. And I said it on stage too. Really the feeling that you might feel in the audience of all of us getting together for a common goal or a message through music is carried backstage. It's a night that we all look forward to because we get to spend time together and then tour the rest of the year. So it's fun. And I worked very closely with Jason Dermer, who's kind of the production manager, technical director. We are in constant communication throughout the night about time and how to keep things moving. And this is a short one, Anthony, or this is a long one, or now you have 5 minutes. Okay, we need 10. He's almost sending messages through the curtain that I can hear that no one else can hear, just in case. We have lights going on. We had a timer going on. All these things that the audience doesn't really get a chance to see. But this year, of course, ran long because I don't think we expected Bruce to play as long.
Yeah, that was surprising.
So Bruce
So
just like pretty much walks in and does, like, he could just keep going, obviously, and he can do whatever he wants, and there's no exact set.
There is always a plan, right? That kind of we understand that we will let Bruce and Kevin, who's there, setting up all of his things throughout the day, that we're just kind of on call. If Bruce wants to go out and do one song, he does one song. We're okay. We know how to continue. So Grishecki had his own set in mind, and then with Bruce or without Bruce, and we were conscious of time the whole time, really. The ultimate thing for us is we're so fortunate to have Bruce come up on stage and donate his time and from his busy schedule to come up there and do this. So if he wants to go on stage and do 3 hours of music, we're letting Bruce go on stage and do 3 hours of music. But
Oh yeah.
if he wants to do 3 songs, we're just as grateful, and it's we're prepared for whatever he wants to do in that moment. So yeah, there's a lot of contingency plans and plan A, B, and C when you have a big night like that. And
so as the MC, like with all the other acts, like Jill Hennessy, she got 5 minutes. She did 2 songs. As the MC, like so, as a performers, is there a clock on the stage that we can't see that they're watching that?
yeah, yes,
I saw
and you don't see me beating myself up if I go a minute over, but yes, there is a clock. It's really a clock mostly for the main stage acts, because those are a little bit harder to interject or stop or something like that. So for the big full band sets, each of them who had 20 minutes this time around, there is a clock that counts down to 20 minutes. And we do communicate with all of them during their sound checks earlier in the day or in emails in advance that we may have to pull that curtain at some point to really keep the night going, because for anybody who's done productions or is on in theater shows or something like that, it's not just the people on stage, it's the crew behind the scenes, it's the ushers, it's the bar, it's the security staff, it's all of these people who are paid to be there. And of course we have a great relationship with the Count Basie, but if we go over a certain amount of time, that becomes overtime for everyone. And as an organization, the Light of Day, that takes away from the donations we can make. We have to pay everybody at that point. So of course we went into overtime the other night, but that is a conscious thing that somebody like me and Jason during the show, and of course Tony coming together, there's many times throughout that show that everybody doesn't see that Tony, Jason, and I are in a dressing room communicating what to do next. So we are conscious of that. There's a couple things that I was going to do that I decided not to, or things that I switched out last minute or kind of truncated as the night went on, because I knew what's more important really is keeping this night going, getting the messaging out, and keeping the energy. So yeah, I'm really good at that kind of thing. I always tell everyone, push me out on a stage and I can figure that out. The singing and the rest of the writing and all of that stuff I have to do is a little bit more work, but I know how to really quickly change gears and keep the energy going. And yeah, and this is before we hit the stage. I speak with every artist. Jill in particular, we talked a lot throughout the night. Johnny Resnick, James Maddock, right before the curtain opened. I'm talking with him and Fantastic Cat, saying, "What do you guys want to say? Is there anything I could say really quickly?" And I kind of just soak in a lot of information right before I go out on the stage and try to word vomit that out as best as I can, and just keep the night flowing. But I'm really fortunate to be able to be in that position, and to also be privy to how we've all gotten to that point throughout the year through Light of Day.
So you've never had to get the Apollo hook and like pull anybody off the stage?
The threat is there, and they know it. They and I know exactly what you're talking about. But people are aware now, that really we have to keep to a tight show, and it's all advanced really well through the production. We try to have the acoustic acts play a little bit longer, but the more you get a great like Johnny Resnick. I mean, I would have watched him for 2 hours straight.
He was great.
It's just so fantastic. So you really want to be able to give an artist like that as much time as possible, and all the other acts are completely understanding of that. I think everybody is just happy to be there.
How was your energy, Anthony? I don't know if people heard. You may want to say what happened to you 2 weeks prior, and how did you feel that night? Were you 100%?
Oh, Stan, it was a week prior, which is even scarier. But so I had to get an emergency gallbladder removal surgery, and I'd been dealing with a stomach virus throughout the holidays, and it must have exacerbated some underlying issues that I had, and yeah, I was in probably the worst pain I've ever been in my life, and happened to be down in Myrtle Beach visiting my mom while it happened, and then had to drive back so that I could be there in time for the main event. It was not easy for me. I've got to be honest. I was very nervous. I was a little bit concerned that I wouldn't be able to sing because of if anybody's had a surgery like that, that and performs and is a singer. Well, all of the support for your vocals is right in your diaphragm, right in the area, of which I'm breathing from and everything. So I was very tired by the end of that night, and of course it was me on my feet for about 12 hours because I got there early, and I'm running kind of the rest of the day and working on a lot of things. So, yeah, I was beat. It was hard. Not only am I talking on stage and singing, I'm talking the entire time behind the scenes, and I was okay. But I spent Sunday with some Tylenol and a heating pad, and it is what it is. But I didn't want to miss it, and I will say on behalf of everybody on the Light of Day board and Jason Dermer in particular, we had a lot of conversations about what to do if for some reason I couldn't do it, or if for some reason I just had to do things differently. We had some great plans, and everybody was really understanding. And I unfortunately couldn't make any of the other Light of Day events during the week, as I usually would like to bounce around or speak on behalf of the organization at some of the events. But I was happy to be there, and I made it through. So thank
Well,
you. Thank you.
you came out with flying colors, so great job on that. Two quick things on Resnick. From where I was sitting, I was pretty close, but I could see to the right. And the whole time Johnny was playing, Joe Grishecki was leaning on the rail back there, like just watching and listening very intently. He was applauding very loudly every song. So I just thought, wow, that's like respect right there from one artist to another.
Oh man, last year I watched the entire thing with my jaw dropped, and I was with Stevie, who's a member of my band, and I am a '90s kid, so that music, it means something to me, from every doctor's office I've ever been in to every car I rode in. The Goo Goo Dolls and his songs, I mean, we're just everywhere. So to see him doing it live, and of course again this year, his energy, he's a great person, the voice, the songs, I mean, it just takes you to somewhere completely different, and it was absolutely magical. I have a great moment. I was standing behind Grishecki and Willie Nile at the end of Johnny Resnick's set, and Willie, almost knocks into Joe Grishecki and was like, "Holy shit, look at that!" And it was when the entire audience was on their feet, and Johnny was, just going back and forth from stage left to right, getting them to sing. Like, it was just everybody backstage was like, I'll take 1/10 of that. Give me one of those songs. But it was just really magical, and just it's one of those moments that you just feel just very fortunate to be alive, and it's why we do what we do, and it's why the Light of the Day is doing what it's doing for people, and just really magical. Really, really lucky to be a part of a night like that, for sure.
Well, there was a brief moment, I hate to ask, but I have to ask, but like after Johnny was done, somebody was speaking and you took a picture of something down on the stage. Were you taking a picture of his set list?
Yeah. So I haven't actually. I posted it on my Instagram, with a few other pictures from that night. But it was with, when Jeff Raspy and the other DJs were chatting. I was like, oh, it's right there. And I also did the one backstage with for Grishecki's set. There was a set list backstage with with Kevin and Bruce's techs, and I took a picture of that too, so I had it because it's interesting, behind the scenes to see the notes, and what's listed on there. And I mean, it says Gary, and it says Bruce, and it says electric guitar, and it says all of these things that, I mean, for anybody out in the front of the crowd, it's just fascinating stuff to see.
And you got the photo of a lifetime behind me.
I love your background, Stan.
Yes. I hope that's framed up. Will be framed up on your wall. You between Johnny and Bruce. So
look at that big cheesy smile.
That's Stan.
Yeah. So somebody said to me, placement is everything. And the truth is, in that moment, what I'm doing right before we get on there, and I did this last year and this year, was be intently focused on Bob Benjamin. Um, well, what happens backstage during that time is everybody's really excited to get on stage with Bruce, and everybody's excited to get on stage together. But it's important for us to remember really why we're here, and how healing that moment has to be for Bob. So me and Nick Conti and a few other members of the board had this plan. I mean, really, this with me and a few board members and the security guards backstage. I'm shouting to this group backstage because everybody knows it's coming, right? We know, okay, light of day. The gates open and everybody's running on stage because everybody wants to just be a part of that moment. But we positioned Bob. We also have Bob's cake, So I turned that's what I was saying. I'm a security guard. I really turned into like a director and traffic, manager before we went on stage. And I said, the cake is going to wait until the end of light of day. Stay right here. Do not move. I'm yelling at everybody, watch for this cake. Don't knock it over because it almost fell over last year. Then I say, who's got Bob? Who's got Bob? Let Bob go first. Go slow, go slow. So and then I have a microphone in my hand so that we could all sing some of the background vocals too during that time. So it's there's a lot going on at one time. And I just kind of ended up in between those guys. And then, when the cake came out, everybody sort of shifted, and we got Joe Durso in there, Willie Nile. We wanted everybody to really be a part of that. And it's it's really not about ego, but it is really kind of cool to have a picture like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching just in the audience when Bruce is on stage, the whole background on stage of everybody watching and dancing and smiling. It's like they're all like taking it in. And it's like not only is the audience taking it in, but the people back on the stage, on the side of the stage, you can just see how they're just in another atmosphere.
I experienced that for the first time in 2020. So January 2020 at the Paramount.
Right.
So that was a real surprise that Bruce was coming that year. We really didn't know until very last minute. And I had a plan that year to join Grishecki's band and sing a few songs with the House Rockers. But that, of course, changed right away. So previous to that, I had been opening for the Jukes on the summer stage for the 2 years previous, and that year before that was another surprise appearance by Bruce, and Gary Talent had opened the show. And there's a great photo somewhere of Bruce watching me on stage of the summer stage holding my merchandise. And he's got my T-shirt and CD in his hand, and he's watching. And I don't know, I at that point I hadn't met Bruce personally, but if you recall, which was just really an interesting time, he pointed at me on the stage during light of day and brought me over to the microphone, and I sang a verse and a chorus with him. And there's some great photos of Bruce and I sharing the microphone. And then I didn't expect, yeah, it's really wild. It was really wild. And I didn't expect after that what was going to happen. So then he sang Thunder Road, acoustic. And it was the sold out Paramount Theater, and however many of us are on stage, and it was completely silent. And, in that moment, I felt that magic that I think many of you have felt over the years, or you've been a part of, and maybe I didn't quite understand up until that point. And it really was just amazing. So the light of day moment, while it's exciting and fun and we're celebrating, it's really that Thunder Road moment that is just like, who am I? Why am I here? What's going on? And it is just really, it's fascinating. I know this year he asked everyone to sing along, but in the past, I think everybody's usually really listening closely to hear that interpretation on that particular evening of that song, and to hear it, stripped down like that is just really, really cool. So yeah, those moments are nights I'll never forget, standing beside Bruce.
And when did you know this year? Did you know on your long ride from South Carolina coming up that Bruce was going to play?
We had sort of an idea that it was a potential, and then I sort of had an idea for certain the night before. But by the time I got in the morning at the Basie, because I arrived to the Basie around 11 a.m. I knew that was happening, and Kevin was already there, and setting up the guitars. And Kevin happens to really be a big Remember Jones supporter. When I chat with Kevin, he's kind of knowing what I'm doing. He's like, watch everything you post and I follow you. And so it's great. And he's also, let me know that so has this, everybody in the camp. Everybody in the camp knows, and they're really supportive of me, and they've always been really helpful. So I'm very fortunate for that.
Well, again, you did a great job as the MC, especially under the circumstances. So great job. First time so for anybody watching that doesn't know, Remember Jones, you do these you do album recreations, you do show recreations, you've done Mad Dogs and Englishmen, you've done, the first time I saw you was at 2020 at Light of Day at the Paramount on Friday night, and you were doing Tommy from start to finish, and that blew my mind. I had no idea. I'd never heard of you, and I'm sorry, I'm not insulting you. I just
No,
never
no.
heard of you. I'm out in Chicago, so I'm in the Midwest, so I'm not in that area. But I walk in and like the band, the dancers, the singing, your showmanship, like you are an excellent showman. It just blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, I think, for anybody who maybe has just seen me here and there, or sees me at Light of Day, or any correlation with Springsteen, and I have a few albums of original music, but I've never really considered myself a songwriter first. I've always considered myself a song stylist or interpreter amongst, I've been influenced by the greats, all the crooners, but also people like Janis Joplin and Tina Turner and Tom Jones and all of these people who just maybe other people wrote for them, but they did their own interpretation of other artists' work, and that's just who I've always been. I've also, I'm in the Actors Equity. I'm a performer. I've been in theater and musicals my whole life, while always had bands. So Remember Jones was my opportunity to create this stage moniker that allows me to be whoever I want at any time and bridge the gap between my theater experience and my bands together. And it was really the first time I started to have a career, and it all kind of made sense to me and a lot of audiences. So while performing original music, I thought, well, I could flex this muscle as well and create these show experiences. And I've always really had these big inflated visions of maybe a record or a tour or something that I had seen previously, and I've been able to kind of put that on many stages. So yeah, Tommy was an amazing experience, and it was one of the last events at the Paramount, before it's been sort of closed for many years.
Yep.
And I've also had a lot of success with an Amy Winehouse show that I've toured all over the country. And I've been featured in Rolling Stone magazine for that show. We had a great article about that experience and that show. And Mad Dogs and Englishmen, of course, which we're about to bring back.
Yeah.
And man, I have a Tom Jones show I've been touring, which I absolutely love.
Bad out of hell.
Bad Out of Hell. I know I keep forgetting it. I don't know why, because it's like I'm still recovering from the last time I did it. Every time I do it, but yes, yeah, Bad Out of Hell, which my debut performances of that, we had Max Weinberg on drums, and I have a lot of great stories about that. But it's I've been very fortunate, and now I sort of get commissions, or I get venues to reach out to me and say, we want to have you, and we're not sure what show, but maybe we can create something new. And so while I do my shows locally in New Jersey, we do tour a lot of them. And, I lived in Chicago for many years, coincidentally, before Remember Jones. But we have been, lucky to come back to Chicago and, sell out Lincoln Hall a few times. And, I play my original music in a lot of venues. And, I've have a lot of great support in a lot of communities across America.
Just some comments. We got people watching. They've been commenting. One person says your Tom Jones show in Brick was on fire. Anthony, you are the best. You put your heart into everything you do. And it's been great to hear the interviews with Anthony on East Street Radio. So
yes, very cool.
Anthony, your Hedwig was amazing.
Oh yes. So for anybody that's unsure what that is, I did about 16 performances this summer of Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is this groundbreaking kind of punk rock and roll gender bending musical that has had a lot of great stars play on Broadway and off Broadway. And I always say I'm still recovering from that. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was really, really cool. And yes, we did last year I was fortunate enough to be the opening act for a small theater in Brick, New Jersey, because I grew up in Brick. I went to high school there and grew up doing some community theater there when I was a kid. So the community theater group, uh, who is now calling this, it's like a 120 seat theater. They're calling that a home. They asked me to do their first 2 nights, their grand opening, and we did my Tom Jones show, and I squeezed a 17-piece big band onto this stage, and it was just fantastic, So I was very fortunate to kind of go home and do that show. But yeah, this is cool. It's growing. I've got a great team. We have all of these different versions of what we can do all of the time, as well as just original music, and I'm always working on stuff like that too.
Yep. And I saw you do a great Christmas show in Ocean Grove just about a month ago. That was phenomenal. Guest singers, the whole band, and I loved it. I'll be back next year if you do it again. It was phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Another big endeavor that I've taken on over the past year is producing artistic director of Asbury Park Theater Company. We unfortunately don't have a home base because there's really no functioning theater in Asbury Park or Proscenium Theater. Um, we have been staging shows at various places, including where we did Hedwig and where we did this Christmas show, and that's sort of become our annual gala event, where I have a 17-piece big band and we do these sort of classic arrangements of all of these different Christmas and holiday songs, and just had a lot of fun, and interject comedy and outfits and things like that into it, and it just has a great wholesome Christmas, almost like TV show Christmas special energy to it, which I love. If I could just be a TV host for the rest of my life, I'd probably be happy with that.
You'd
Like
be
an
very good at it.
Andy Williams Christmas show.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anthony, you mentioned that with the Bat Out of Hell experience, you said you had some Mac stories. So if you have it, you're talking to the right audience here. If you have anything you'd like to
Yes.
share.
Well, oh my goodness, where do I start? Because it's so good. I always tell people, like, just wait for the book, because I have crazy, crazy stories that I think, people just don't imagine. But we had the story of really getting Bat Out of Hell together the first time. This was always an idea of something I wanted to do, and I always kind of had it in my back pocket. And previous to COVID times, we had talked about doing it and had spoken with Max, and Max was interested, but it just kind of left it there. And I was planning to release my album. This was 2022, I guess. I was planning to release my new album, and we had booked 2 nights at the Axelrod Performing Arts Center in Deal, and I was going to announce my album release show and a big party. And coincidentally, we were going to do like a game show thing, almost like a Saturday Night Live type game show, album release show. And woke up one morning and Meatloaf had passed. And I got a text from the artistic director at that theater, and he just simply said, "Meatloaf?" question mark. And I said, yeah, I mean, we just have to. The way this aligns, I mean, within a week, we had it announced that we were going to do Bat Out of Hell within a week of Meatloaf passing. But it was always something that was kind of in the works behind the scenes. And, within a week, we sold out 2 performances, I think. And we hadn't contacted Max, but we realized at that point that, well, we had something special, and we could probably sell more tickets, and if we could either move to another venue or add more performances. And I was actually uncertain at the time if I could handle that many performances physically and vocally. Meatloaf could barely do it in one night, so I was really a little bit nervous that could do a whole weekend of performances. So I, through my contacts and connections that I had to Max, we reached out to his agent, who is someone to work with. And, he kind of made the assumption that we couldn't afford it or it wouldn't be possible. And I said, well, we already sold out several shows, so let us know what it takes, and I'd be happy to work with them. And, within a couple of days, we had Max on board, and it was really exciting. And it definitely took some negotiating, because Max hadn't played it live. Max never played any of that music before, and I think he really had to go to the shed and kind of see if he could even do it or what he could remember out of it. So I had to really coach Max through a lot of the parts that he played on the album. He hadn't even listened to some of it for for a while, and admitted to me that he had never played it all in continuity, that the songs were recorded in pieces. So a song like Paradise by the Dashboard Light, for example, he only had done sort of by section. And then Todd Rundgren and Jim Steinman worked together in the studio to piece it all together. And he had a lot of ideas. I had ideas. We all had limited time, and we had very limited schedules to really work together. So I will say, within 5 minutes of us meeting each other in person, we had a very natural thing, and we aligned very easily, and we just had a blast together. And he had all of these ideas that his agent were like, Max will never do. He said to me, Max will never agree to any of that. He agreed to all of it, and then actually had crazier ideas than I had. So and for him, what he liked out of me, that I was, I think, a mix of Springsteen and Conan O'Brien. And I came from both aspects of entertainment. This keeping, holding the audience in the palm of your hands and keeping them on the edge of their seats, and making sure they don't know what to expect next, but then also being a host and an MC, and wanting everybody to experience this as if it was their first time, and kind of be in the moment, and interject theatricality through it. So he really was on board with all of my ideas. And one major one, if you've seen the show or you were there at the Axelrod, was having Max pushed out on a moving platform while he's playing the intro to Bat Out of Hell. And I'll never forget saying to him, but I've got this idea. Max will never, while he's playing. And he said yes immediately. Actually, he said, of course, this is what we did all the time on Conan's show. And he came back the next morning with ideas for me on when he thought would be the right time to do that. Let's wait for this moment. And you should, he got really excited. He almost joined me as a visionary in that moment to say, no, let's wait for this and let me do this. Or don't you think I should do this? And I'll do whatever you want, but I have this idea, So he gave me all of the respect in the world. There was no ego involved. I think he understood, I've got a vision. I've got the following here. People support what I do, and he's there to support that as well. He said, I've been doing this my entire career, is supporting artists like you, and that's what I do best. And it is really what he does best. So the story is really, it's so much fun when you're working on a show and you're behind the scenes and you're backstage, but we really had a great time doing a VIP talk back after the shows. And a lot of the audiences were gracious to buy a VIP ticket and stay after the show to watch Max and I have a glass of wine together, and talk about his experiences and what it took to record that album, and what he was going through in his life at the time, and how no one expected that record to be as big as it was. And it was just cool. It was really cool.
Yeah,
Anthony,
I just want to add that VIP
sorry.
experience. I was there for one of the shows. You and Max both signed autographs, took pictures, and that was, great for everyone. Got to hear you talk, but a lot of people like to get both your autographs and get pictures with both of you. Max, both of you were so nice to everybody. It was really wonderful night. Wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you. It was cool.
Anthony, I'm only sharing this just to what you said. Like, I've met Max a few times in Q&As, and very kind, very generous, very gracious, very humble, down to earth. I took my dad to see Max with his big band like 12 years ago, in this venue. And after the show, we didn't do the VIP, but we just went. He was signing autographs. My dad asked him how he got into drumming, and people are waiting. His people are pulling on his sleeve, and he sat and talked to my dad for like 15 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. And then his people are like pulling on his sleeve, like, Max, we got to go. And he's like, no, I want to talk to this guy. And it was just like, here's this world-renowned drummer, but he didn't care. He just wanted to talk to my dad for whatever reason, and he's just such a great guy.
Yeah, he's really great. I mean, that's also, to put into perspective, there he was with me, well, behind me in reality, at the Axelrod Performing Arts Center in Deal, New Jersey. So when you humble yourself at some point, you really just get kind of united in this understanding that we're all artists, we're all musicians, we're all hustling, we're all doing the same thing. This could all end at any moment. This could all shift in any moment. And he he was really so respectful of that and me. And backstage during the shows or after the shows, he would say to me, "You have something amazing here. Really, this is so special." And when he headlined Light of Day the following year, they did the jukebox. Was it the jukebox during
Yeah.
Light of Day?
Yep.
I just did a set that year. I didn't host or anything, and we were at the Count Basie. And I know he did a major interview, and people asked him what he was looking forward to, and he said, "I'm looking forward to seeing what Remember Jones does." And I just thought that was really special. And of course, that night I think I had like 4 costume changes within 15 minutes, and I don't know what I did, something really over the top, I'm sure. But it was really nice of him to say that, and to remember that, I'm someone in his eyes worth looking out to see what's going to happen, and that was really so. It's cool. We left a great impression on each other, which was really cool.
For anybody out there that doesn't know, Remember Jones, check out his music on. I use Apple streaming. Anthony, one thing that's weird is on Apple, you have 2 different profiles. It's like you have stuff from when you started till 2019, and there's another one for 20 through current, which I thought was odd.
I think it's odd too. I think I had a different distributor, and I'm not sure why it didn't sort of conjoin. But that is what happened to me.
Okay. But so I listened to, you got Ain't That a Kick in the Head, fantastic song. Love Sheryl Crow song.
Every day is a winding
Every
road.
Day's a
Yeah.
Winding Road. And my favorite, oh my God, fantastic job on Queen, Love of My Life. I was like, oh my God, it like blew my mind.
Oh,
So I'm assuming all these songs that you cover, the albums that you're covering, these are all things that you grew up with. Like, how did you get into that music as far as like when you were a kid? Were your parents into music? Were you just exploring on your own?
yeah, yeah. I remember buying CDs when they first came out, but that was because we were so obsessed with records, my parents' records, and listening to those in the house growing up. So my family's a lot of music lovers of all different genres, mostly R&B and soul music, and classic rock, southern rock. So I was always really influenced by a lot of harmonies and stage outfits and these female vocalists. Both my dad just loved female rock vocalists and female soul vocalists. So somehow that made my voice really high tenor because I was just kind of uh, imitating these vocalists as a child. And then taking all these influences together is really what created a lot of the music that I do. And yeah, I've always been a jukebox of some sort. I've always soaked in music more than anything, and personalities. So yeah, a lot of what I've released over time or what I do on stage has been a part of me forever. If I'm picking a concept or I'm putting together a show or making a record that's a cover or something like that, it's because I can envision it. It's because it's really in my body in some way or in my spirit in some way. And then I go from there. There's a lot of concepts people ask, well, why won't you do this or why haven't you done this? And it's really because I'm not necessarily inspired by it, or I don't have the vision or the follow through. I can't see the finish line for something like that. And Ain't That a Kick in the Head, for example, was I had the chance meeting with Dina Martin,
Wow.
and this Dean's daughter, and she really liked me and what I was doing. And it was Dean Martin's 100th birthday around that time. So we spent a lot of time together in the studio, and I thought I would just do a little dedication, and Dina was on hand for all of it. There is somewhere in the archives a recording of Dina and I singing Return to Me. Um, and a lot of other Dean Martin recordings that I just never really released, but I've got them somewhere on a drive. I know exactly where they are. I don't know why I'm lying, but they, but it was a great experience, and we released "Ain't That a Kick in the Head," and around that time, I was also singing all of the music of Jeff Buckley with Gary Lucas on guitar, and Gary recorded and wrote Mojo Pin and Grace with Jeff Buckley, and that was quite an honor to go through that as well. So I've had really a lot of these really neat experiences, but these songs and pretty much everything I release so I have all of those shows. But when you just see a show that's just Remember Jones, a lot of people say, well, what theme are you doing? Well, no, that's me with my band doing whatever I want. And I love those nights because I get to do a lot of my original music, songs from all of the shows that I do, and just some of my favorite songs and interpretations, like that version of Every Day is a Winding Road. I've done a great release of I Love You Always Forever, the Donna Lewis song, which has, so many people have used it for their weddings now, my version of it, because we kind of did this, Charles Bradley classic soul recording of it. And, my second album we released, we recorded all analog. I had a 12-piece band down in Nashville. We cut everything to tape, and it was really, really challenging. It was the same producer, Andrea Tokic, who did the first Alabama Shakes record, and he had just won the Grammy for that. And we were on tour with the band, and we tracked a bunch of songs, and it was really hard with that big of a band. But that's the sound that I was going for a while. So, I released my first album is called Ladies and Gentlemen Remember Jones. We raised $20,000 or something like that through Indiegogo to make that record, and then surprised everyone who donated to us that it was going to be a live record and they were going to be a part of it. And we invited everyone, and I recorded with a 25-piece band and orchestra at the Strand Theater in Lakewood, and we tracked everything live, and that was a really cool experience. So, a lot of my things are live feeling, because I'm a live performer before I'm a recording artist. It's not as easy for me to make records as it is to just like get out there and entertain and pull something out. So, yeah, and I think what you're probably seeing is that in during COVID, I made a studio record really for the first time. I wrote a dozen songs and kind of did a project with a bunch of producers that was just me, and calling different friends and different influences and having different people record. And it was the album's called Ha Ha Bitch, and it's it was a lot of fun.
I used that song as part of the promotion today on Instagram, by the way.
Yes, no, thank you. It was fun. It was a departure from kind of the classic soul thing that I was doing, and that E Street band or juke style band that I have, which I still have, and that's what I tour with. But everybody was doing their kind of passion projects or things like that during COVID, and I had so much fun during it. It was the most fun I've ever had recording, because I was able to collect a lot of the genres that I felt inside of me. There's a great song that's inspired by Stephen Stills on there called Bloom, and Stephen Stills is one of my favorite artists, and it's just an acoustic track that we did on that record. And I did a huge kind of theatrical ballad on there called People Watching People, that's got a full choir, and it's really great stuff. And Fat Jeans, which was a big single for me, which was really my COVID response. That was really about when it was time to finally get out there and perform. None of my clothes fit. And there's a great follow-up story about that song too, because it was stolen by a national artist 6 months later. So yes, 6 months after I released my song Fat Jeans, with a full animated video that I worked on with a great animator and a great team. 6 months later, Carrie Underwood released a song called Stretchy Pants with a full animated video, exact style of my video.
Wow.
And my hook is I put my fat jeans on, and her hook was I put my stretchy pants on. And it was an R&B song, and she's a country singer, and mine was an R&B song. And it definitely caused a bit of a stir. Got some national news, which was great for me. But it was very challenging for me to navigate. Mental health wise, it was terrible, and I can't quite afford to get into situations with Universal Music Group at my level. So I just kind of had to live with it and make comments on social media and ride off of that. But it was a great experience for me. I made this concept record that was all Anthony as Remember Jones, and I was really proud of it. So a lot of people don't know that I've released original music. It will always get overshadowed by some of the greatest songs ever written. And thankfully, I love performing some of the greatest songs ever written in my own style, and audiences have been really supportive of that too. So that doesn't bother me whatsoever.
So I just
Anthony, my
okay.
friend Toby Davidson, our friend Toby. My favorite Remember Jones song, the one that got me hooked, is "Bam" from Ladies and Gentlemen. Remember Jones 2016, amazing album.
Thank you. A song written by Glenn Burtnick.
Ah,
And so Glenn and I, during that time, were touring Summer of Love. And actually, it's Glenn and Bob Berger, but we're touring Summer of Love a lot at that time because I released that album 2016 or 17. And at the time during Summer of Love, I think that year we did 20 to 30 dates on the road, and we would try to sneak backstage after sound checks and work on a song and start writing things together. And then one day he said, I have this song that I just think is you, and you keep talking about the concepts or direction you want to go, and he played it for me, and I said, oh yes, this is perfect for what I'm working on. And he allowed me to rewrite some of the lyrics to match kind of what I was doing in the time, and it was just a lot of fun. And we rearranged the entire song. If you ever listen to Glenn's version, it's very different, but it's one that I pull out every once in a while, but don't do as often. But it's great. I'm really proud of that too.
I just wanted to,
Howie.
yeah, so I'm sorry. I wanted to say something just to go back a little bit, only because I had some internet issues. I apologize for that. But going back to the Meatloaf, production, my favorite cover from you is For Crying Out Loud. And I love the song in general. It's my favorite from the album, but it's also, you did a phenomenal version of it. And I think you mentioned at the show that it's hard for you to do, in the sense, I guess emotional wise, or whatever. It's an emotional song. It carries a lot, for sure, for sure. But I do remember watching you do it, and I also remember watching the people that the production was phenomenal. I mean, everyone who participated in that was, Johnny Pye, or everybody was in that. It was amazing. And I remember, just them watching you perform this song, and they were in such, even though they must have heard it about 100 times when you do the rehearsals and stuff,
Right.
they saw how much passion and how much you were putting into it. And I just wanted to say that, that I didn't know what to expect. It was actually, for me, the first time to see you live, and Julie says, we got to go see the show and whatever, and we were a big fan. But it's, to do something that that is so iconic, and to do your version of it and that production. I remember coming out of it, and we ended up going to see it more times after. That's how good, and that's how impressed I was. But your version of For Crying Out Loud is phenomenal. I don't know if you ever recorded it, but I'd love to get a version of that.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. There is a version of me doing it on YouTube. It's just me and a piano player, which is really cool. So you don't, kind of get the full orchestra sound or anything like that. But I do have that on YouTube. I should release it, but it's a great studio version on YouTube. And okay, so when I do that show, and when I do a lot of shows, especially if I'm recreating an album, I try to do it in continuity, and then I create some sort of through line, or different ways to kind of connect it all somehow. And For Crying Out Loud is the last song on Bat Out of Hell, and it's this 12-minute opus, that's just like ridiculous. And it's the same thing, three times, with different variations, and one of the time has the full rock and roll orchestra, and one of the time is really quiet. And it's really that makes it the most challenging. If I was to show up and I'm a guest on somebody's show, and all I'm doing that night is singing For Crying Out Loud, it's not a problem for me at all. But when it's an hour into the show, and I'm faced with this 12-minute song, I start to battle like the muscles in my body and the voices in my head and the exhaustion of the entire day up to this point. because just for everybody's, I think it's important for everybody to know, you're coming to see an 8 o'clock show. Well, I've showed up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We have sound checked and rehearsed. Sometimes I've sung the entire album before the show even starts. It's absolutely painful. This is why some artists have somebody else who do their sound checks, because, when you have the expectation on you to sing Meatloaf or sing Freddie Mercury or hit those high notes, sometimes you just can't do it. If you didn't sleep well, or you're bogged down with some other stresses, these really affect your body, as you all know, in any circumstance. So it goes directly to my voice. So Meatloaf actually stopped singing that after his first year on tour, and he didn't sing it again until 2004 or something like that. There's a recording of him doing it with the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, and he says at that time, "I have not sung this song in public for 30 years because it scares me so much." And I understood once I started doing it, and we did that first run at the Axelrod 4 nights in a row. I definitely understood why. And it's just huge, and like I said, if it was the first song, I mean, and keep in mind, the first song I sang that night was Bad Out of Hell.
Oh yeah.
It's oh my God, it's enormous, So and it just gets harder and harder throughout the night. Those songs, I don't think were ever written to tour. I don't think they were ever, intended to become these huge rock anthems that the world has, known them as. And I don't know anybody that could do it several nights in a row like that. But yeah, it's hard. And it isn't, you're right, you want to emotionally convey the lyrical content of the song too. So that adds another layer on top of it. But the audiences have been great and understanding, and
I don't think people. I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize it. Like I get, I'm not a part of a sound check, so for you to go through that and all the stuff beforehand, everything goes into your voice and whatever, and then to do a normal album, that's not like that. I would say tedious or whatever, but it's hard to do a whole Meatloaf album, and the last song on that album is that kind of opus, like you said.
yeah.
It's you don't. I've never put that together, and I even more so why I respect it.
Another thing too, especially with that show in particular, and I think this is a lot of my fans, really close fans, I think they understand this now, but maybe they didn't when I started. I direct those shows, I stage every element of it. I costume everyone. I work on the music direction of everything. So sometimes I don't get a chance to perform my show until the show itself, because I'm so focused on what's going on behind me. Yes, I have people who can kind of be another pair of eyes, or I have a wardrobe person. They take my direction and they kind of run with it. But that show in particular, with the moving platforms, when you walk out to my Bad Out of Hell show, you only see a grand piano on stage. Yet we have a 16-piece band, all of their amps, everything is off stage. So there's a full crew off stage running the show as well. So that's all from here. And to get everybody to understand that is a job in itself.
Wow.
So usually
you must be a pleasure to be around that way.
I love that you said it that way, because, well, to be honest with you, it's just as I've grown and the expectation of me is higher, that has become a lot harder for me to do. And I my team has to grow, and I've, this year in particular, I just hired a whole production team and a few assistants, and a new business advisor, and all of these things, because I'm hitting a growth period in my career that I can't do it myself anymore, or I can't do it with the people that we've just had now, or the quality of people. It's time to grow, and this happens, of course, to every artist. And I'm definitely at that point in my career where a lot of people would give up, because they don't see it possible. But I know it's possible, and I know I can do 10 times what I'm doing if I'm not dealing with minutia, or if I'm not, still painting the platforms or ordering the catering. I am doing a lot of that stuff still, and I just am unable to, if I want to bring my career to that next level, which is thankfully inevitable. It's happening. So I have to be able to stay there and have the right support who understand what I'm doing, who can pick up what I put down, who can finish my sentence. That's all happening right now while I'm working. So it's a really interesting growth period, and we've seen, especially with Springsteen, everybody saw that happen. Everybody watched that evolution, and with Meatloaf, for example, that happened within a year. He went from playing, the bottom line to Madison Square Garden within a year, and just everybody in his label and on those teams just had to jump right on that to make sure that could actually sustain. And he physically couldn't sustain through a lot of those things. There's notorious stories of him passing out on stage, and that happens to a lot of artists. It has happened pretty close to me many times. So
You.
yeah, light of day. It could have happened. I wasn't sure. But it's I yeah, it's that hard part about being the artist and the growth, and just wanting to kind of service everyone's needs, because it is the only way for you to get your vision across, or for you to grow, is to also be kind of a service person. I often say a lot that I'm a professional problem solver, and I don't always get a chance to create. I have such a big band. If I have 16 people in the show, well, that's a minimum of 16 hours of conversations. But it's also 16 people's schedules, emotions, logistics, gear that I have to worry about. And yeah, I should have a four-piece band. Of course, that would solve all of my problems. But I love what I'm doing. I love helping people see their greatness through. I love challenging people to kind of allow them to see themselves in a bigger way. And that is I want to be the next Dick Clark. Really, I want to, I want to produce and be a personality at the same time, and really, lend the hand to great artists that I've seen and known, and help them do what I do for my own thing, for their thing.
Well, I would
Anthony,
watch. I
oh,
would
sorry.
watch on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, see, right? Come on, that'd be great.
Anthony,
Oh,
what
I
I
love-
love about your music is Save the Planet. There's gospel music there. It's an Edgar Winter song, but it's gospel. But you do gospel, soul, old school R&B, pop, straight up rock. You do it all. You cover all. Dean Martin, you're covering it all. Your voice is great. So two questions for you. Did you have like formal training to develop your voice, or this is all natural? How did you get to where you're at now, technically?
It's definitely a natural thing, that it's really hard for me to define. I think originally, or as a kid, I found myself to be a great imitator, and that's kind of how that started. I could like mimic, or I could hear something and quickly do it, and then discovered my voice and discovered how I can manipulate my voice. And so I think I'm more of like a voice artist, kind of more than anything. But I think then when I started doing theater. And I was very fortunate to start working professionally when I was 14. So I was working with a lot of people who had many, many years of experience, different directors, different musical directors or coaches within some of the shows or productions that I was working on. And that's really how I kind of honed what I was doing, and learned really from the streets ultimately. And was able to identify what my strengths were and how to really kind of finesse that and craft that. So it is like I think you'll understand what I mean. It's a blessing and a curse, because I'm to know Remember Jones, or to understand Remember Jones, really is to see Remember Jones, because I can go through all of these directions. But if you think of somebody like a Tom Jones or a Sinatra, they released country records. They were doing all of these things. Tom Jones is one of my favorite rock vocalists ever, but do we think of him as a rock vocalist? Not really, but he can, you've seen videos with him singing with Little Richard, or singing with all these people and out singing them. It's just this, he's a voice artist. He can really handle all of these things. Janis Joplin or something like that, who would sing a Broadway tune, but then also be able to do this rock and roll ballad. These are the Who, Roger Daltrey, singing a Broadway thing. The Who becoming Broadway, was never really the intent, but they were all kind of Jesus Christ Superstar. I've played Judas many times. Hair, I've toured with the musical Hair. I mean, these are things that I love, love, love so much, and they've always had this hybrid of rock and roll vocalist or pop artist being a part of those things as well.
I recently ran across a clip of Tom Jones singing "Hey Jude" with Wilson Pickett, and as you said, he's like out singing Wilson Pickett, and that takes a lot of
Yeah.
a natural ability. But yeah, is knocking, knocking his hair back.
Yeah, oh man, Tom Jones. So I do this Tom Jones show. It's basically a recreation of his 1969 Flamingo Hotel review in Las Vegas, and we do the entire Tom Jones live in Las Vegas record with a few extra songs that were on his residency there, but not on the album. And really, that is a funk band with 13 horns, and no one was doing that at the time. You think of the other records that were out in '69, all of these other bands. He's singing these Beatles songs on this record. So I do, Hey Jude on that record, and Yesterday. We also do Hard to Handle. We do Turn on Your Love Light, which the Grateful Dead was doing at the time. So it's all of these songs on this Tom Jones record, and he does. It's not unusual, like twice the tempo he released the record at, and it's almost like a throwaway song just to get it out there. And it's become one of my favorite things I've ever done. It's one of them. It's hard. It's hard in a different way, as opposed to Meatloaf. It's a different muscle. It's a different mechanism. I have to kind of spend a couple days getting my body and voice into sounding like this, a little brassier, a little bigger, a lot more air. Sometimes they're the same exact notes that I'm singing when it's Meatloaf or Tom Jones, but it's the interpretation that I have to go in a different direction. So, and then my own music too. I do this with my own stuff. I write songs that are probably too hard for me to actually do on a nightly basis or to sing on a radio at 7 o'clock in the morning. But that's just what I've done for myself, and that's the expectation people have of me now.
So you mentioned the other night, you've done all these different Tommy and Amy Winehouse and Queen. You're doing Stevie Wonder's songs in the Key of Life next, right?
Oh, thanks for the reminder. Yes, I almost forgot. Well, yeah. So actually, next and very soon, I'm taking my Mad Dogs and Englishman show on the road. We actually just announced today that we are doing the show at the Count Basie in a few weeks. We were doing it at a smaller venue, and now we're moving it to the Basie. But I'm also taking that show to South Orange Performing Arts Center. We're at Bethel Woods Center for the Arts. We're at the Suffolk in Long Island. We're at the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. We're taking the show on the road. I bring 25 people. It's a 20-piece ensemble on stage and a 5-person crew, and we recreate, the legendary Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour, which was infamous for having more people than they can afford to have on stage, which is happening to me. It also knocked Joe Cocker out of the business for a little while because it's just a powerhouse show. But the spirit that show brings is amazing. And while I'm touring that show, I am working during the day on Songs in the Key of Life. So, I Songs in the Key of Life is probably my favorite record of all time. And this year is the 50th anniversary. I brought this to my friends at the Count Basie Theater a few years ago to say that I was looking forward to this. And, we're working together on that show. So, we'll be doing the entire Songs in the Key of Life record from start to finish, including a few extra Stevie Wonder songs at the end of the night. And we will have a full gospel choir and a large expanded band. If you're familiar with the record, there's strings, there's horns, there's many vocalists, there's several keyboards, several drums. It's going to be one of the biggest undertakings I've ever done. We're going to focus mostly on the music because it's so dense and there's just so much theatricality in it already that I don't necessarily have to have a bunch of dancers or something. But I do have some conceptual ideas going into it, and I'm bringing a lot of people on board with that show because it's not written in its text for somebody like me to sing, if that makes any sense. It is told through the perspective of a person of color in a lot of ways. So I'm going to have a lot of special guests, and I'm going to feature a lot of marginalized people who may or may not have had the opportunity to get on a stage at that level. And that is a joy of mine. Like I said, that is something that I take pride in doing, and that's why my bands have always been large and filled with different types of people. So Songs in the Key of Life is the best opportunity for that. So I'm excited. I'm excited to, conduct a gospel choir and sing some of my favorite songs ever.
I'm on your website. Do you have a different website for your tour dates, or where can people find out about your tour dates for Mad Dogs?
If you're on rememberjones.com, there should be a button on top that says tour.
Okay. Must be missing it here. So you're doing. So I was looking at I think you did like a 2018 performance of Mad Dogs, The Wait. Oh my God, the version that you did of The Wait. Oh,
Ah, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's cool. It's a lot of fun. It's like just especially Mad Dogs. It's like it's all those songs on steroids, and it's just like it's really ridiculous. So we do have a 9-person choir on this one. Two drummers, including Joe Belia. Our friend Joe Belia is one of the drummers, and my touring drummer John Kelly Kiefer. We've got 3 horns. We've got 2 keyboards, 2 guitars, bass. Um, at the Count Basie, we're going to have Sandy Mack on, harmonica with us, and a couple other special guests, and everybody gets featured at some point throughout the night. It really is this, big. It feels like we're worshiping in some way. I don't know what to say. I don't want to say it feels like church, but I think I'm saying that in the sense of whatever church means to you. It just feels like we're a lot of people putting their energy together to celebrate live music and how that makes people feel, and it's really really cool. So Mad Dogs and Englishman has songs by the band, songs by the Rolling Stones, songs by the Beatles, all the popular songs by Joe Cocker at the time and Leon Russell. Superstar, the Rita Coolidge song, which was a Leon Russell song. Let It Be, sung by my friend Jaquita May. She's on our tour. She's done a lot of things with me over the years. She does an amazing version of Let It Be, which Claudia Lanier sung on the original record. So it's just really unique to hear these one-of-a-kind versions that nobody's doing these things, and we have talent buyers and agents reach out for me across the country who are just like, there's a tribute to Mad Dogs and Englishmen. What the hell is going on? And I try to tell them, no, it's not a tribute. We are really just a bunch of people from 20 to 50 years old getting together and celebrating some of our favorite music of all time and trying to recreate that energy. Not necessarily I'm not dressing up like Joe Cocker. So that's cool. Yeah. Sorry, my website. Now you got me worrying. Am I gonna?
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
no.
go
I,
through.
I figured it out for anybody that's at home. Up top, it's got Home, Amy Winehouse, Bad Out of Hell, About, and then More. If you go to More, there's a drop down. There's other stuff. So the tour is on there. It's under More.
Okay,
Sorry.
good. No,
Sorry.
just kidding. No, that's all right. I know I was actively working on it today because we just just announced this afternoon moving our Mad Dogs and Englishmen show to the Basie for Valentine's Day. Um, we were doing it in a small venue in Ocean Grove, and we kind of have just outgrown that space when it comes to what I can do production wise and the expectation that I'd like to give to my audiences. So the Basie I have such a good relationship with. I mean, what a great venue to have this symbiotic thing with. So they just scooped it right up for me and moved quicker, than most people can to really help me out. And what a great space. And for Songs in the Key of Life, it's such a big endeavor for me to have a venue like that trusts me, that knows I'm going to bring a quality piece of entertainment to an audience, and that the audiences buy those tickets and support that because they like the Basie and they trust me. When I was 14 years old, I was an apostle and Jesus Christ Superstar on the Count Basie Theater stage. I'm not 14 anymore, but to now be like calling that home and selling it out twice a year, you know, as a home space for me, that means a lot. I feel more comfortable on that stage than anything else. And when I envision what I create, it's to the size of that stage and that audience. So it's a little harder for me to take things on the road because of that. But
That's what I was going to ask you. Any chances of coming to Chicago this year? Please, 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 please.
We were just there last year. We did City Winery, which was really cool. Actually, we sold it out, which was fun. I'd like to. I do try to get there at least once a year. I don't have a plan just yet, but I'm hoping to maybe get there in the fall, likely with my Amy Winehouse show, because this is also the 20th anniversary of Back to Black this year, and so we are one of the only shows in the world that performs the music of Amy Winehouse without impersonating Amy Winehouse. And that's why we had an article in Rolling Stone magazine, because they were just so fascinated by what I was doing, a male singer doing Amy Winehouse. Well, what's going on here? Well, the music is so good and these songs are so well written that what does it matter? It's me and several other vocalists, trading these songs and interpreting them in our own way with the same arrangement of band that Amy had, 3 horns, kind of like the Dap Kings and things like that. So, and we just had great success with that around the world, and I'm sorry, around the country, not around the world, but I'm just putting that out there. um but so yeah, it's we've been really lucky to do that. And sometimes what we'll do is maybe go to one city and do one show, go to another city, do my originals, or one season, go to a venue and do my Amy show or another show, and then come back a couple months later with my originals. And uh like, for example, we sold out Lincoln Hall with Mad Dogs and Englishmen, and sold out Lincoln Hall with my Amy Winehouse show, but then came back 6 months later and played Shubas with my original music. And those are sister venues. So things like that happen kind of all the time for us. And we've been really lucky. We've just some fantastic fan bases throughout the country, and cities that we fly to or drive to that, I don't know why in one place it happens and there, and one place it doesn't, or we're still working through one market and hitting it off in another. But that's just kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm very excited to go from thousands one night to 100 the next night and still give the same show. It's really a cool spot in my career that I'm fortunate, just fortunate.
Well, your band is fantastic. You got one singer that, oh my God, she's never stopped. She's an incredible singer. I don't know what her name is, but like she's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I've always kind of, had female vocalists alongside what I do, and it's great support for me, and it's good to find, the people who I can walk off the stage and they can still keep the show going. I could take a breather for 3 minutes, and I know the audience isn't going to pee at that time. Like, that's a great feeling for me. So yes, I've had one of my best friends, Stevie in Cremona. She's kind of been partnering with me over the last few years. She just had a baby a few months ago, so she's taken a little time off. And in the meantime, I've had my friend Jaquita May and Emily DeMeo come on board, and these are all fantastic entertainers. And that's the important thing for me. Yes, the voice, of course, but if I can just pass that baton off, and I know the audience is going to be just as intrigued, that's a really special thing for me to have that counter. I almost call it a support singer. It's like we can support each other and play ping pong throughout the night, and it's just so great and entertaining. And now my band, everyone in the band sings. So at any time, you're hearing like 8 vocalists at the same time sing all the backgrounds, and that's just really, really cool. I never thought I would be able to pull off what I'm able to pull off with a touring band like this. When I first started incorporating horns and writing music for horns, Harvey Leeds said to me, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Harvey manages the Jukes, and I didn't understand what he meant at the time, and now I understand it. There's just it's another section, like, right? It's another group of people I have to work with and give direction to, who operate differently than your standard garage band of, guys and gals who like are just going to work together and shed it together. These are people that can play orchestra pits, and they could play, weddings, and they could do all of these things for, whatever type of money. And here I am saying, hey, tonight we're making $100. Well, not anymore, but it was a great learning experience for me, and I learned so much by incorporating all these auxiliary instruments into what I do. For example, Songs in the Key of Life, we'll have harp player and several different keyboard players, and a gospel choir and a string section, and these are people that, at any moment I turn and I work with, and I have to be able to know their dialogue and be able to communicate how they like to communicate. And that's somebody who does that really well is Steven Van Zandt, and he's not necessarily a guy that's like a music school guy, because that's not what I did either, but he's just a great director, and can interpret these things either with a guitar or with his voice or with his mind, and say, this is what I'm looking for, and this is how we craft it. And then he's got somebody like, Mark Ribler or somebody in the band to then translate that into the musical notes written on a piece of paper, or to say that chord is actually a B flat sus4. I don't know. I can kind of figure that out on the piano, but that's not necessarily my strength. My strength is definitely the creative and definitely the emotional direction of where everything needs to go.
It's awesome that you have that support group. You built that band. You know what you're looking for, and like Bruce always says, it's like good talent. Attracts good talent. Whatever he's setting the bar at, that's where everybody else rises up to it. I think that you do the same thing.
Oh, well, thank you. And a lot of people say this to me, and a lot of, I'm sure some of the fans listening, they love coming to my shows because they get to meet everyone. They get it. If I have a 16-piece band on stage, at some point you're introduced to the personality and musicianship of each person, and that is a grace that I'm extending to everyone because I want them to be there. They're there for a reason. They're humbling me as well. They're challenging me in a creative way, and I always say it would be selfish of me to not introduce each person to the audience. It would just be rude. Everybody here is so talented, and they're not just backing me up. We're creating some experience together here, and that's what my vision is. I'm really inspired by somebody like David Byrne and the types of shows that he puts together. And I'm actually working towards that as much as possible. Now, my entire set is wireless. I own like $70,000 worth of wireless gear. So when you come and see my shows, you're not seeing all these amps and wires all over the stage. No one's standing there behind, a music stand reading music. That's a wall in between you and the audience. And I'm offended when you do that to me as an audience member. So I would never do it to an audience member on my own. My band comes in memorized, when able, taking the direction, making the eye contact, understanding the emotion of the song. That is a whole other day or two of rehearsal on top of just learning the music. So, my group is definitely in for that. You're coming in for something that's not quite the same. Even when I do the big band, a lot of those guys just show up and play the music and on their sheet music, and I have the bandstands made for them. We have iPads for them, so they're not flipping through pages. Nobody even sees that they're looking at it, and they have in their sheet music and through my direction when they're standing up, when they're moving left to right, when they need to be memorized. I don't want to insult any of these people by not making sure they're completely prepared to look and sound their best at all times, and that is a lot of behind the scenes work.
Yeah, what David Byrne's doing right now with his, the group that he's had for the last couple tours, it's like they're in constant motion. And for anybody watching that doesn't know, like they're not sitting, it's not your normal setup. Like they're all standing, they're carrying their instruments with them, percussion, guitar, everything, and they're like moving in constant motion all the time. It's amazing. It's truly mind blowing.
Well, what you guys know who've seen my shows, like that's what we're doing. Bat Out of Hell is exactly that. And Tommy was really that, with a lot of multimedia kind of put into that. And, Songs in the Key of Life will be a little bit of a hybrid of that. My Queen show is very much that as well. And we have a whole choir when I do a Queen show, and we've added horns and strings to that, which is just makes it a celebration of the music, not a copycat. And we're one of the only people doing that in the country as well. It's if I put a mustache on, it's almost like as a joke. I'm not really trying to look like Freddie. I'm just paying homage to one of my favorite bands of all time. So, it's I've been very fortunate for people to like buy into that, or people who say, "Hey, I've kind of heard of Remember Jones. I'm sure this is going to be a really cool experience. Let's go and check this out." And then, have been grateful to have a great team of people that allow me to follow through with that.
Whenever I've seen your shows, I've seen a few of the different ones. You walk out saying, that was great and that was fun.
Mhm.
That's what you bring. You are a showman.
Yeah.
And it reminds me almost like of Liberace in the 1970s and 80s. My mother used to take me to see him at the Garden State Arts Center, and he was Mr. Showmanship. And
Yes.
I think you are Mr. Showmanship right now with the Jersey Shore and beyond.
Well, I'm grateful for that title.
Yeah.
I support that. A lot of people have said Peter Allen.
Yeah.
And so one of my greatest compliments by somebody in the audience once I don't want to leak anything now because there's a chance that this won't happen. But one of my greatest compliments was someone came to me and said, "You are the next Bette Midler." And I just said, "How did you know? Like, how did you know that that's like one of my greatest influences?" And that is you, coming down the line in a few years, I will be doing the Divine Miss M live because,
Oh,
I've seen Rufus Wainwright do Judy Garland, and I've seen all of these artists tackle that. But I am looking forward to performing the Divine Miss M and recreating one of Bette Midler's, iconic live shows. I have a great director on board already who's another Bette Midler fan. So, that is something for me as a little passion project down the line and she's another one, didn't write her music. She was a song interpreter and all of her hits were, for many years were her own versions of other people's songs, of course, until Wind Beneath My Wings and things like that came on board. But what an amazing entertainer. She's more of an entertainer than a vocalist, really. And that's really kind of how I see myself ultimately.
I like you mentioned Peter Allen. People forget about him.
Yeah.
Go check him out on YouTube if you never heard of him. Fantastic. Yes.
And sometimes I'm learning more through through Springsteen and things, like some of the covers he's popped in over the years, or some of the people that he says influences him. And it's as an entertainer, like as somebody that goes out on stage and just holds an audience in the palm of their hands. I mean, I'm sure he's influenced by a lot of these people over his life, or I'm sure he's seen these artists and said, oh, I'm connected in some way to that. And that's how about Bette Midler doing E Street Shuffle, and she would perform a lot of Springsteen tunes because of the storytelling elements and the characters, and I mean, you don't Springsteen on Broadway. I mean, he's got to secretly be like this. He's got to have all like the records of like Rodgers and Hammerstein and Andrew Lloyd Webber at his house, and he's studying them. I mean, the way these songs are put together, or Stephen Sondheim, like the way these songs are put together, and characters and storytelling and imagery, these are perfect for a musical. These are very theater. I've always thought of that with how he's curated records and put on shows. It's theater. There's a theater kid in there somewhere, Bruce. I don't know where, but there is.
Well, I think his theater was Sam and Dave and Gary Bonds
Yeah.
and all and he said that like he'd go watch Sam and Dave, night after night after night at the fort at the bar, and that's what he does. He's definitely a call and response gospel type feel to it. It's a spiritual connection he has with the fans, and he's curated that over 50 years.
Yep, I always work, with my band, and especially my band when we're just Remember Jones. I say to them, I want to ride this line of making the audience feel like it's going to either be brilliant or all fall apart. And that keeps them on the edge of their seat the whole time, and I'm in control of all of that. And my band knows the signals, or they know the body movements, or the things I'm going to say and do, or the height of my voice, or the tone of my voice, and how to follow that, right? So that it's not an obvious me turning around to the band to tell them what to do. We kind of put in these little elements in throughout the night that are ingrained in our rehearsal process or in my direction that the band can just quickly follow through. And I feel like that's been a nice way for Remember Jones to be identified and to really help me create the brand that I have too with the audiences, and for you to say that was fun, because you really are tapped in the whole time. You are connected. You're not sure what's going to happen. Even if you see Bad at Hell one year and the next year, I'm giving you something different when you return, and there's little twists and turns, or we finessed something that we didn't have enough time to really clean up the year before. I do that with my music, all of my arrangements. You probably know that when you see different tours for Springsteen over time, something that they do musically different than they did a few years prior. And that's, could have happened on the road over time, or, Springsteen or somebody in the band wakes up and says, I had this idea, and everybody kind of navigates and runs towards that. So that's constantly happening with what we're doing.
Anthony, our friend Mary Jones, great idea, Mary. Wow. Something to put in your back pocket. Anthony needs to do a theater production of Incident on 57th Street, the album. I think she's talking about the song, but if you could do a whole show for Wild and Innocent, oh my God.
Okay, so that almost happened once. This is a great opportunity to tell some of the secrets, but we this was for one of the Light of Day. It's the year I think we did Mad Dogs, or maybe the year after. I'm not sure, but this was a conversation with my entire band about doing that record. And what made me nervous, and I hope you all don't mind me talking about this, but I didn't really grow up with the Bruce library. I kind of that's something I kind of found over time. My parents just had different influences, so my house wasn't filled with those sounds. And then I never connected to Bruce because I didn't see him as a vocalist. And so that was just
Okay, I'm kidding.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Don't say
Yeah.
that out loud.
Yes, but but that was, now of course I do. I mean, and I thought he sounded amazing the other night. There was some things he was doing as a singer the other night that I was like, whoa. I posted on my Instagram story him singing Meet Me in Atlantic City, and he was just, kind of extending and vamping the end, and he was doing all these soul riffs over top that I was like, this sounded better than that soul record you made. Like, this was just incredible what he was doing. So that's what rest does to you also, by the way. You really sound really good when you're not singing on the road all the time. But he, I eventually, somebody sat me down and showed me a video, one of the theater tours that he was doing in the 70s, where he was still playing like Count Basie sized theaters. And I don't know if it was a bootleg or an official release, but I sat and watched this whole concert and I was like, oh, now I get it. I mean, what an entertainer. He was like laying down and rolling around the ground and doing all this great stuff and silence to the audience. And I'm like, this is me. This is what I do. So then I started to really listen to what he was doing. Anyway, this is a long way of saying that I just didn't feel like I could meet the audience's expectation of that record because I didn't own it, right? Like I didn't have it like in my body, in my blood. And if we're going to do this as a band, well, everybody's going to be staring at me and waiting for me to screw it up at any point. I always tell my band, you can't mess up because they know it better than you. So, if you mess anything up, we can't be confident. So we have to take a confident approach so that we can mess up. If you're taking this confident approach and you're killing it, and you're going in your own interpretation, then everybody like Saturday Night Live, we could break down and laugh because we were all doing it with a full heart. But at the time and under the constraints that we had, we were touring a lot. I kind of said, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off, So it is on my list. I would love to do it at some point when time allows. And and that is the record, I think, ultimately for me and my ensemble to really do. So that is definitely it is on my list, and it's a good thought.
Got it. We want to be respectful of your time. Howie, Julie, Stan.
I want to know, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Am I reaching? Is there anybody alive out there? No. Where'd you get the jacket that you wore Saturday night?
Oh, the last one, that sequin, that one.
Yeah.
Do you notice? Do you see the R and the J on my lapels?
I saw something. I didn't know that's what it was, though.
Yeah, that's an
Okay,
R,
yeah,
and
R.
and on the back it says Jones. Well, this was from my Tom Jones show, and I have a full design. If you haven't seen any photos or any video clips of that, that's a show I've designed with all of these outrageous, like 60s Vegas colors. And I was so nervous that none of it would really look well together, and it did. But when people started saying to me, "We can't wait to see what you're going to wear next," I said, "Oh shit!" So I started to bring on, I do have somebody that designs and creates my outfits for me, and it's my rig, it's my touring gear. All the musicians update, a lot of their instrumentation, and I update my outfits. So with every tour that I do, or with every kind of concept, I design the outfits, and it really starts from me and then kind of goes outwards to the rest of the band. So this outfit was an idea that I had of this, sequin kind of pink purple suit. And for the full suit, there's an orange shirt, there's all this other stuff. But I brought everybody joked about it backstage because I had about 10 jackets backstage during Light of Day this past weekend. And I wasn't sure when I was going to wear what. So, but yes, I knew that would be my finale look.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And we
Almost looks like a nudie
all
suit.
drooling over it. We were like, we want that jacket.
Yeah, it's so cool. Well, it's the finale, man. It's Bob's birthday. We got to go all out.
Yeah.
Jules, just for the record, I can't pull that off. So
I don't know.
No.
Let's see. The closet I have is crazy. So anytime you want to stop by and take a look.
I can't. I have wardrobe changes too, but it's all spring nut shirts. So
Well, hey, I need a spring nut shirt. That one I got to get. I don't have.
There you go.
go away. It's definitely coming your way. We should have came to you a long time ago. I'll just chime in and say, I again want to repeat what we said at the beginning of the show is that, first of all, I want to thank you from a spring nut perspective. all the support, or and even when I asked you for the videos for our 10-year anniversary, you were more than gracious to give us one. And you weren't there, but everyone cracked up at your joke of doing a not a spring nuts but a Jones nuts grant thing. So that was good. I'm still working on the name. It still hasn't come to me, but I'm working. I'm working on it. But all kidding aside, I want to thank you for all your support and for doing the show. And even more so, like, I really felt terrible, knowing that you were not well, and you went through your surgery, and then you did Light of Day, and we had to schedule it. So, but I appreciate you being on the show even after doing Light of Day and your surgery, and taking the time to be with us. And more than gracious, you were phenomenal. Your stories are phenomenal. Your performing is phenomenal. Everything you do is phenomenal, and you're a phenomenal person. And I want you to know that, from me, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And speaking for Julie as well, from a Springer perspective, thank you for doing this for us.
Well, no, thank you guys. And I said it on that video, and I mean it. It's impossible to do what I do and what all of these artists do that you support without people like you. Can never take it for granted. I mean, I could do it. It would be awkward. It would be a little weird, to have an empty audience and nobody listening. But the support, and that you reach out and you give your thanks and you say how we make you feel, really keeps me in particular going. We deal with a lot of no's, and we deal with a lot of business things that are just counter to why I was put on this earth. But it's people like you all, and your support and your understanding and your patience and your kindness that really keeps us afloat. Really, thank you so much for what you do for Bruce, for the fans, for all of the artists. I mean, it means so much. Thank you.
Well, like they say, this, like Dominica Goldberg said it, and that's our motto: the Spring Nuts love you. So,
yeah. All right. Thank you, Anthony.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you for your time.
Really nice.
be well.
Yes,
Look
of
forward to
course.
seeing you.
Yeah, see you soon. Thank you, everybody watching. Yeah, see you around. Mad Dogs and Englishman's coming up. I'm excited. See you soon.
Check out his
right.
tour site on his webpage. Hey, when is spring? Is there a date set for the Key of Life?
That's April 18th at the Count Basie. We sold about 1,000 tickets the first weekend it went on sale, so it's selling steadily. And but if you can't make that, you could find us, throughout February at a lot of venues with Mad Dogs and Englishmen, and then there will be a lot of other really cool things to announce coming up throughout the year.
All right.
Awesome.
Excited. All right.
Be
Thank
there.
you, Anthony. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Everybody
you
have
all.
a good
Good night.
Everybody have a good
Bye.
night.